Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Joe Fisher, and I am the president of Fisher Realtors. And before getting started, I would like to share with you my contact information. My California Department of Real Estate license number is 010-70856. My telephone number is 510-253-8712. And my email address is jlfisher180@yahoo.com. And now I would like to welcome you to my episode 1 podcast on how I arrived into the real estate business. You will agree with me that we are all products of our past. And whether we are happy with ourselves here today or unhappy, you will agree that we are products of our past. So I would like to get started by sharing with you how I arrived into the real estate business by coming to the city of Richmond with my family, my mother and father, my 2 older brothers, Harry and Jesse, later on my sister being born here in California, coming from the South in 1944, and I was like 9 months old. Family coming from the South, coming to the shipyards to work. And we arrived into a community called Canal here in Richmond. Those of you who are my age or perhaps a few years older or younger will remember the community of Canal. But for those of you who never heard of Canal, let me just give you the location. If you were traveling west on Ohio Avenue, passing South First Street, arriving to Girard Boulevard and making a left there on Girard, headed south until you will arrive to Cutting Boulevard. You would make a left there and continue on Cutting Boulevard, heading east, passing South First Street again. Everything included in that area was called the community of Canal. These were the projects. The projects consisted of buildings, square buildings, upstairs and downstairs from A to Z. So you could see from A to Z, 26 apartments in a building with the average homes of 3 to 4 people, over 100 people in each building. Very unique. Now my family lived at 922 West Florida, building 46, apartment L. And we actually would walk to Washington Elementary School on Cutting Boulevard, traveling, navigating through the projects. And Washington school was diverse. For instance, that families living in the projects were considered poor, which not considered, they were poor. But the Washington school was in Point Richmond, which was the wealthy part of Richmond. Very diverse. A lot of great people came out of Canal. Many of you remember Mud Goodwin, a great boxer. You will remember Nunu Randall, another great boxer. You may even remember his brother, Riedel Randall, who became a professional baseball scout. Some will remember Joe Shaw, who lived in Canal, and he became a police detective there in the city of Berkeley. And then there was the Providence Baptist Church. My father was a deacon there with the Taylor family. Many of you will remember Leroy Walker's family lived in Canal. Joe Robinson's family lived in Canal. My family actually stayed directly next door to the Moore family. Many of you will remember Lawrence Moore. He became the city manager of the city of Richmond. So you could see a lot of people came out of Canal. My brother Harry Fisher and Fred Brown, the Brown family, the Taylor family. I mentioned the Robinson family, but all of these people came out of Canal. And at Washington School, we would go to the plunge. The plunge was called the natatorium, a word we used because it only meant the plunge inside of a building. It was mandatory at that time for all of the kids to learn how to swim. So you could see it was a great time there in Canal. In the buildings, we didn't have washing machines. We didn't even have refrigerators. We had what they call an ice box, and the iceman would come and deliver a block of ice, which was about a foot square. You would put it at the bottom. That's what would be used to keep the food cold. And the washing machine had a turn board to dry the clothes, a designated area to put your clothes on the clothesline. Very unique and different, such as would be today, but nevertheless, great time in Canal. I'm going to conclude this episode number 1. And I just want, and keep in mind now, this is how I arrived into the real estate business. A long story, but we will shorten it. And I won't want to keep it very interesting, but it is the truth, and it's directly the story on how I arrived into the real estate business. So keep with me for episode number 2 as my family and I move out of Canal into the next set of projects. So stay with me, stay tuned, and I want to thank you for this episode. Looking forward to you next on episode number 2. Thanks again. Joe Fisher on how I arrived into the real estate business.